Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Energetics Podcast. I am your host, Kara Bunde-Dunn. Today, we have an incredible guest joining us, someone who is an expert in bringing joy, play, and fun into our everyday lives. Laura Haver is a dynamic speaker. She's an author of the book Play Together and a passionate advocate for creating more awe and wonder in the world. Through her work, Laura teaches us how to tap into the power of play, to increase our energy, how to shift our vibrations, and how to embrace a life filled with joy and connection. So, whether you're looking to infuse more fun into your routines or elevate your overall energy, Laura has insights that are sure to inspire. So, let's dive in. Laura, welcome to the pod. I'm so happy you're here.
Yay, thank you so much for having me. And hello, everybody out there listening. Isn't this a great podcast? I'm a super fan. I've listened to all the episodes. So being here is so fun.
I love it. You are just one of the most dynamic people, and I always come to you when I need a little spark of positivity and joy and fun, and you are just always so energy giving. So I couldn't think of a better person to talk about energy
Hmm.
than you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so have you always been this way? Like, have you always just been so in the energy of love and joy and fun and play? Like, give me a little backstory on you for those of us that don't know you as well.
Well, it's funny when you say it like that because it makes me actually go back to when I was a kid and my childhood nickname was Play Maloney. That's my maiden name, Maloney. And so when we think back, right, when we think back all of us to what we were like as kids, a lot of times we have this natural energy and this joy and this ease and awe in life. Like we just play because that's what we're supposed to do. And we have this huge opening to play. But then we get a little bit older and it's like, oh, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. Like it's not as cool all of a sudden, or things happen and you're like, wow, you kind of start shutting down your natural ability. And so when I think about that in life, like I had a pretty good run of that basically until I'd have to maybe say motherhood was like maybe my first real test. It's like, oh, because now it wasn't just me taking care of me. It
Right.
was like I had these little kids to take care of. And I just found myself being like, gosh, this is harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And
Like, how did our grandmothers do it all?
how did anybody do it? Like, I just gave this talk on Tuesday, and one of my lines is like, how come no one told me it was this hard? Like it's so hard. And and it was interesting because I had this amazing, like, I don't know, luck, grace, like universe, whatever you want to call it. But I used to play pro beach tennis before I had kids. I actually played tennis my whole life growing up. I was a tennis coach, like a lot, all this stuff. But I was a pro beach tennis, and people are probably like, beach tennis? I don't know what this is. So for anyone who doesn't
Well,
know what it is,
especially the Midwesterners in the house, you may have to help them out a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah. So it's imagine a beach volleyball court with a slightly lower net. Then imagine like no bounce badminton, like badminton or pickleball, something like that. So I used to play that, and then all of a sudden I saw a tournament being played I gave it up after I got married and had kids, and then I saw it was coming back. So I actually went pro for a second time when I had like a
Love
baby
it.
and a toddler, and that's when I really was like got back into this playful spirit, right? Instead of just being a mom, I was
Yes.
being myself. I was competing, I was showing up. And I always tell this to people, even though I was training on the sand, running around up in the night with my baby, breastfeeding, all the stuff, I had more energy than I did before because I was also showing up for me. And so it's like, does it make sense that you would have more energy? And so it was really interesting just to see putting my energy back into being me as well, not just doing all the things for everyone else or like all the roles I was supposed to do, right? Because even if you're not a parent, you might have all these things like you're like, oh, I need to pour into my job, or I need to do this and I need to do that. Like it doesn't have to be kids. It's just when you start not showing up as yourself,
Yeah,
you
I think
know?
you're so right. In fact, I was literally just meditating on this morning. Like, when we shine our light bright in the world and we just stand in our authenticity and we just shine and show up in the way that we're meant to, like, things don't seem as hard and it's more fun.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
Yeah.
shoot, this is a good time. Like, because you're being yourself. And I think when we try to restrict ourselves and put ourselves in
Hmm.
a box and try to fit molds that don't feel right
Yeah.
or wear clothes that don't align to our souls, I think that's when it
Hmm.
feels harder, in my opinion
Completely.
anyway.
Yeah,
But you're the
completely.
expert.
And so then I'm doing that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. There was going to be this pre-Olympic Games. It was going to be in San Diego where I live, this Anoc World Beach Games. I was competing for a spot for the U.S. team. I was like top 5 in the U.S. So it was really close because they were going to have, I think, 5 or 6 players on the team. And then suddenly U.S. didn't raise enough money, and the games got moved to the Middle East, and they downsized to only the top team. So I was out. So I went from being able to compete in this like pre-Olympic games, or at least promote it, like, because I was going to promote like for anyone who's familiar with San Diego, they rented out the beach, Pacific Beach and Mission Beach. It's like miles stretch of this like beautiful boardwalk for a month. And I was like so excited. And then it was just gone. And I was like, whoa, what am I going to do now? So I had to sit with that
Yeah.
for a while. And then that's when I realized I want to get back to writing, coaching, speaking, and that I got that little taste of play for myself, but I needed it to be that big to make myself do it because I feel guilty going away,
Sure.
leaving the kids home and doing this and that. So now it's like my mission to give other people permission to show up for themselves, even if it doesn't look like everybody else. Because everybody's
Yeah.
thing is unique. That's what play is. It's something unique and it's something life giving to us. And we forget to play. It's not just for kids, and I could talk about that forever. But it gives
Yeah.
you that spark like you're talking about, right? Like, didn't I think you had like a retreat called Spark, right? It's like you
We do.
need to
Yeah, we have
show
a
up
retreat called Spark.
with this
Yeah.
energy. And when you do, people are drawn to you because they want that. Or sometimes they might be repelled because they want that for themselves. And they're like, no way, she's
That's
doing it. But that's okay. Let them do that because they can come back around.
That's right. That's really powerful because you're either going to magnetically attract peeps that want to live in that authenticity, or the opposite. I think what you said is also true, where you
Yeah.
will be like a detractor where they're like, "Ooh, you're a mirror to me and I don't like it, so I'm going to get a little feisty or a little
Yeah.
sassy or a little gossipy or judgy because
Mm-hmm.
you're bringing out something in me that maybe I'm not quite ready to face yet."
Yeah. Well, and that's where like the whole energetics piece comes in so handy. And like being able to read the energy. We all can. We all can read the energy,
Yeah.
like no matter what. Even people who don't believe, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes for anyone listening,
Yeah.
believe in energy, right? Because you can. It's a social emotional contagion. It's actually a scientific thing where the moods of other people around you affect you, right? You walk into a room and you're like, ooh, you can feel the
Yep.
tension. You walk into a room and people are laughing hysterically. You have no idea what they're talking about, but you just can't help but laugh because listen to their
Yep.
laughter. So it's like a real
It's
thing. And,
Do you remember the movie Patch Adams where he like jumps out with a red nose and he's like
totally,
just to like
totally.
shift the energy of people, and he's like, people that are cranky laugh and smile because you can affect people's energy.
We were just talking about that yesterday. So in my book, I have a game called Smile Contest, and I created it over like during the pandemic when it was just getting lifted. It was Thanksgiving, and so I knew families were starting to get back together. So I wanted them to practice just being together and smiling, right? So if you smile, and the first person to laugh or look away is out. You can play it competitive, you can play it whatever. I've actually played it, like I spoke at this conference and we played it with the entire conference room. Like if the
Amazing.
winners cheer for like the people and then you get down to the final two. But anyways, the research is so interesting because there's tons of studies that show even just smiling or even putting a pencil in your mouth or a chopstick, it has a physiological impact on your body. Yes, okay, thank you. Got one hand here. Look at. I brought my playful pen here. You guys remember those like multiple colors?
Oh yeah, I like that.
And I
Yes.
tested it out, right? I tested it out. It totally makes a difference. And so it's like, it's these little shifts that we can do. So that's what I'm fascinated about. Like, how can we play with the energy? How can we adjust our own frequencies? What can we do? Because sometimes we have control, and then there's other pieces that are kind of unconscious. They're like they're things that happened to us in the past. And so that's something I just love being able to help people clear that with some of my energetic practices that I do for my
I
clients.
love
It's
that.
like, because go
You know
ahead.
what I'm picturing right now? I'm picturing like peeps in the business world, having been a former, I call it recovering corporate executive, is what I like to call myself. But I could just see them being in a meeting and having somebody just like drive you nutso, and you're like, okay, what am I gonna do? I have sent them good thoughts. I've tried all the things. I'm just gonna put a pen in my mouth and see if I can shift my energy. So if I'm in a meeting with you and I
Oh
stick a
my
pen in my
God.
mouth, it's probably a cue. that we need to like shift the energy of this conversation.
Yeah. And it's not like fake it till you make it, right? It's not like try it. It's not like toxic positivity. Put on a happy face if you're not, because I'm
Yeah,
all
right.
for feeling your feelings and processing them out.
Totally.
But there's also like, hey, like let's put on our detective hat or like let's come from curiosity. What could
Totally.
we tinker with? What can we do to test it
So
out?
walk me through that. What are some things, cuz you work you're a keynote speaker, you work with corporate teams, sports
Hmm.
teams, and then you're also in this like, you know, bubble of woo with me. You've got a little bit of both in you at all times. But for people that maybe are like, I'm not that woo, but I'm interested. I'm leaning
Hmm.
in. I'm kind of intrigued by this idea of energetics and energy. What are like things they can do, just little things that they can do to shift their energy or pay more attention to the vibration that they're vibrating at?
Well, okay, it's funny you ask me that because that's actually the subject of my next book,
Oh yeah, I was hoping we
which
could get into
is
this. Yeah.
which is play mindset. So after I wrote the book Play Together, which brings all this like play and fun, connection, joy, all these like life skills taught through play to families, I was like, I really want to reach adults, right? But I'm like, and adults, people aren't like, you know what's missing in my life? It's play. Like no one's really
Right.
thinking that, even though it's an important piece. No one's like, that's what I need. So I was like, well, I don't need people to do that. I'm like, what is it that I do that empowers me to show up with this like spirit? So I'm like, it's not that I'm playing quote unquote so much, which I want to say I define it as an invitation to do something for yourself for the pure
Oh,
joy of it.
for the pure joy of it.
And it's a pathway to living a vibrant and fulfilling life, right? So it's not just like super fun or happy in the moment, but it's something that brings you
Sure.
joy and fulfillment. So sometimes like something that brings me play is like doing talks, but there's a lot of preparation I put into that to get to it, right? So it's not all just like, I don't know, eating chocolate and going down slides or whatever, you know. Um,
Yeah. So, what would be an
yeah, yeah.
example or a couple of examples for like everyday people?
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking about. So the book is like how you approach what it is you're doing. So the first thing that you want to do is you just want to become aware of how you're being about it. That's the first step, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, noticing how you're being about it, right? Dropping in. So I have the one of the tools, I'm giving you guys a sneak peek of
Oh, I
the
love it.
book. It's called
Is this coming out in 2025? When is this book coming?
I will keep you posted.
We'll see.
Potentially.
Welcome
Potentially.
to the world of publishers.
It's in
Anyway, it's
progress.
gonna
Yeah.
be magic. Yeah.
But it's stop, drop, and unroll. So I was reading
Oh, sounds good to me.
Humphrey books with my kids that they're like the hamster, the class pet hamster, and they had firefighters in there. Stop, drop, and roll. And I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect. Because the first thing you gotta do is you have to stop. And then
Yeah.
you gotta drop into your body. Rather than
Mm-hmm.
just being up here in your mind, you want to be in your body. And then you want to unroll how you're feeling step by step. Because sometimes we think, oh, I'm upset about this one thing. But oftentimes there's something a little bit deeper. So, like,
Yeah.
imagine when you unroll your yoga mat and it like just rolls out step by step, like each piece, right? And so you just start making a habit of noticing how you're being and how you're showing up and how you're feeling, right? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's just becoming aware and not judging it. Like if you get frustrated, fine, that's fine. Just noticing, hey, I noticed I got frustrated in that meeting when that person just talked over me. Huh. I'm gonna stop. And then you can take a breath, right? These are like the obvious like emotional
Yep.
regulation skills. But then this is another one that I'm gonna throw in there that's not exactly obvious, I would say too, is do something fun for yourself. Right, you guys, there's no surprise
Totally.
I'm gonna say that piece, but like, like one client that I had was feeling really stressed at work. She was going through the motions. She had couple kids, and she was just like up against it. So she did
Right.
my playlist planner workshop or worksheet. I actually do a workshop too. I just did it this week, but and she noticed she really loved improv, so she ended up signing up for this improv class once a week, and she couldn't believe how much energy she had for the everything else. She'd wake up in the morning,
Yes.
instead of hitting snooze, 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 she'd wake up one day closer to Friday with my improv classes, and like this joy that she got filled herself to all the other
Yeah,
pieces.
it's kind of like a battery, and it's like if you're on
Hmm.
empty and you're trying to like operate and function and do all the things, it's gonna feel like almost impossible or glitchy or like you can't quite do it.
Yeah.
And I think people do that a lot. They really do put everyone else first. And I do understand, right? Life is hard. You got
Yeah.
to show up, you got to do things. And the thing that I love about your perspective and the way that you coach people and show up is that you don't say, like, yeah, take it off your plate, don't do it. You say, how can you find a little bit of joy in the thing that you already have to do? So when I was thinking about that, I do a lot of grocery pickup now. But when I go and there's a long line, I used to get so pissed. Be like, oh, this freaking line! Oh my god, it's gonna take forever! Rah, rah, rah. And then I was like, okay, this is silly. I cannot change that there's a long line at the grocery store. So instead, I'm gonna grab Us Weekly or some like smutty gossip magazine, and I'm gonna read it for free. Thanks, Target. And I'm gonna read it for like a whole minute for free. I'm gonna just swoosh through it. And so then I started picking the longest line. I was like, oh, I gotta pick a long line. I want like 1 minute with my magazine. And then I put it down. I don't have to pay for it. I got free entertainment in my long line. And I made something that I hated, something that I loved.
Oh my
So it just
gosh.
makes me think of like all the ways that you help people say, like, you can't change what you can do,
Hmm.
but you can change the way you do it. Does
Yeah.
that align or
No,
does
that's
that
so
resonate
perfect.
with the way you teach
It's
it?
it's amazing. It's such a great one. So okay, so my framework is called awe,
Love it.
awareness, willingness, everydayness. So I'm going to walk you guys through what she just did, what Kara just did in that one. So first, you had the awareness to realize this is not working for you. You have to do this. It's part of your life. You have the willingness to try on something else. I like to say try on a different outfit, right? Like we have all these outfits we wear. Instead of being like the annoyed teenager, like arms folded, like I got to stand in this line. This sucks. I'm doing this. I have to do this. And you could just be mad about it all the time. But you're like, I'm going to put on my like detective hat. How else could I do it? And I love that you were like, I'm willing to try on something else. And then that's the everydayness. Like, okay, I'm going to bring joy and fun to this moment. And I'm going to read this article that's in your little box, Target or whatever. Like, I love that. Because that's the truth is like, we have to do these things anyways. So how can we do them in a way that like either keeps our energy neutral, right? Because some things are just not they're not going to be joyful and full of awe.
That's right.
But if we can be neutral, right? Like say like put on your beige outfit. If you're pissed about something, at least maybe put on your beige traveler suit. Like my friend has these like jumpsuits that she wears. I'm like, I could just picture this. Put on your beige jumpsuit, be neutral, or get yourself as close as you can. And then you can start, oh, maybe throwing on a cool necklace or, like that could be your magazine. And so it's like, how can we do it? Because we have to do this stuff. And it only
Yes.
brings our own energy down, which drains us. So what can we do?
And
So your example is so perfect because it's like something you have to do, right? Like we have to eat, we have to get groceries, we have to get food. Other people do too, hence the line.
And I think it's like little things too. Like today on my Instagram I got a total hater, and instead of getting like mad, I was like, well, I can't change that. I literally was like, oh, you know what? I guess the way that I authentically show up in the
Hmm.
world is a little triggering for you. And I hope some signs come your way because I got butterflies and feathers and toys today. And I hope that one of them comes your way and shifts your
Yeah,
energy, lady. I'm going to send you so much love, and
perfect.
your shamanic meanness thing. Oh, demonic. She called me demonic.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but like, I am who I am, and I know I'm shining my light bright in the world. And hopefully, a sign comes your way and shifts your energy too. Because I think it's so easy to allow like other people's energy to affect you. Like, oh no, now I'm having a crap day and I can't get out of it. And I just truly believe that we are in charge of our own energy. Like,
Yeah,
we're responsible for our own energy and the way that we show up in the world. And
yeah,
if somebody, I don't know, shits all over you and is mean to you or gossips about you or says something nasty about you, you get to decide if you're going to let that affect you or not, or if you're going to allow it to shift your energy in a negative way, or, just wish that person well.
yeah,
And I
100%.
think you're the queen of like not gossiping. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah, no,
love
I
this
will
about you.
not
Like,
gossip.
I know I love this about you because it's like people think this is the way that you bond and create connection and create like relationships with people, is to like just kind of talk about whoever's not in the room. And I just love the way that you speak about people when they're not around, the way that you hold yourself. And I have never heard you say anything other than positive and energy giving things about yourself and others. So I'm super curious. Is that something that you've mastered? Is that just innately who you are? Like, how do you show up that way, Laura? Because I love that about you, by the way.
Well, thank you. And thank you for noticing. Honestly, like I've had this practice in my life for, gosh, over 20 years, I think now, something like that. And I believe I talked about it in some like early leadership trainings that I went through. And it just makes sense to me. It's like, I don't want to speak. First of all, I don't want to speak about anybody that I wouldn't want to speak to them. And it doesn't do me any good. It's just, so this is really comes to that like integrity piece is, honoring yourself and your word and showing up in this like in lifting, like a context of connection and love and peace. And it's one thing to be upset and frustrated with someone and you can talk about it if you need like help, like what can I do, but just talking about it and even talking about ourselves, like for people listening, I think it's like, it's harder to give up talking like that about yourself sometimes, right? Like, have you ever been out with a group of people and they're like, oh, my, this is not so good and my that is not that good. And I'm like, I just don't really want to participate in this. I don't want to be like, I'm not going to go participate in this like self-bashing, just to like be a part. I'm like,
peeps do it about their partners.
Oh, yeah.
They're like,
oh my God.
And you whine, and I was like, I love this man. Oh my God.
Totally got
that. That's too
yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh.
You're not gonna go home and be like, I missed you, babe. Smooches. You're like,
totally.
you put yourself in a real cruddy
right?
state,
Like the man cold. People are like, the man cold. He doesn't do stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't talk because my husband is so clean and neat. He like cleans stuff up before I'm even done using it because he's so clean. But I don't want to talk about that, right? And so, but that's what we do to honor our energetic practice. And so when we do that, we're elevating other people. So like, for example, last year, my son had this teacher and he didn't particularly love her. And I just see it from this bigger picture. Like, I don't think she's trying to be mean or harsh. Like, I just feel for them. I think it's just like a level of empathy, like there's probably something going on in her life. So when people are showing up in ways to us, I just want to like, give them love or at least respect or kindness. I mean, I'm not going to stick around. I don't stick around for people in my life like that. Like I honor them.
In the mire.
I say peace out, but I'm also going to like be a space of someone who's listening and I'll get them and I will just give them some love and I will, it's because it's not like, because that's where the energetic clearing practices come in. Because a lot of these things are these triggers that we have had either from our own life or possibly from our, our ancestors, our past lives, or whatever it is that you guys believe in or not. But there's these things that show up. And so that's part of the work that's been so magical for me to receive and now to be giving is like when you show up against these parts in your life where you're like, gosh, okay, I'm doing this like hand block, you run into this roadblock and you're like, but I don't get it.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the things. I'm putting all my tools to practice. Like, why is this still happening? A lot of times there are these energetic blocks. And that's this magical piece that I'm just like giddy. Like, I can't believe that I've gotten to receive them. And I can't believe I get to do this for other people, to remove these blocks and help them mend relationships they thought they'd never mend, to help them remove, and I'm not a doctor. I'm saying that 100%. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist, none of that. But I've like removed physical pains. Like one of my clients she was just telling me about this yesterday. She used to have this like debilitating back pain. And we just cleared it through a couple sessions of like this deep energetic blocks that was coming through. And they're just like, you don't have to dive into it. You don't have to reprocess it. It's just this like somatic work and like these gifts. And so for people listening, because that's one thing I love about this podcast is like hearing different people's journeys in like their enlightenment or their opening up of whatever their gifts are.
Yeah.
Just like lean in and trust your gifts.
And activating what's there.
Yeah.
It's revealing. It's like an onion and you're just. Hello? Here we go. Okay. I think I'm back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like an onion. You're like peeling back little layers of yourself. And so I think like, let's get into the woo. I say, let's
do it.
What
do you want to know? Let's do it.
So I love that because I was this way for many, many years. Like you're in the business world, you're speaking, you're doing workshops, you're keynoting, you're all of these things. But you also have this beautiful spiritual practice that anchors you into who you are. And I think it's part of the magic that maybe not everybody knows about you, but it's such a really cool part of you. And you help me clear my energy all the time because doing the work that I do, I grab as much as I clear myself and I release and let go of whatever I'm carrying for other people or holding space for other people. Sometimes it's just hard. It's just hard to do. And you help me. And I would love, if you're open to it, I would love to talk about it a little bit about what that is like and how you do that.
Yeah, let's do it. It's such a pleasure to be able to do this with you and with everybody. Like sometimes I just can't even believe that this is what I get to do. It's just like,
love it.
Ah!
Okay, so talk a little bit about it. What does that mean to clear energy, or what is it like when you help clear blocks or energetic blocks for other people? What's that like for you?
All right, so I have two different ways that I'm working with people right now. I do, I guess three technically. I do life coaching, I do book coaching, and I also do energy clearings. And so what I'm doing, like I do energy clearings as part of my coaching. In the coaching, then I'm going to teach you the skills and whatever. But in the clearing, it's kind of like when you do readings. You're just going to do the reading and you're just going to do the clearing. So let's say I'm doing an energy clearing with somebody. I have just like this huge toolbox of all different modalities and things that I can pull out. And so over the years, I've just intuitively learned what comes up first to do the best clearing, right? So let's say I'm doing a session, I would just come in, we'd connect, we can do it like this on a Zoom call, on a phone call, whatever the clients feel comfortable, in person too. And I just I can tune in and I can feel the energy. I can sense what's around. I can sense the blocks. But most importantly, I check in with my clients, like, what is it that they want to clear? Like sometimes they might say, my left shoulder has been just killing me. Oh my gosh. Or they might be like, I am really having a tough time with my daughter right now. Or,
Sure.
I have to submit my book proposal and I'm freaking out. It could be like physical, or it could be relationships. It could be any of that. And so we can tap into the body's wisdom. And the people can tap into these core memories, things in their life, or perhaps, generational past or things like that. And then we can help to clear it. And so then I'll do the work on my end through whatever modality seems to come up. And then it's interesting because you sometimes, as we're working on it, it can, like, people will cry or their nose will stuff up. Or
I bawled my eyes out when you were clearing for me, and you were like, you took me through this exercise and meditation and all these things, and then you were like, what showed up for you? And I was like, a freaking memory from my childhood that I thought I had done all the work on. I don't know where the hell that thing came back up from. And you're like, okay, let's dig in, let's clear it, let's see if we can get to the root of it and release it and let it go. But it's funny how you sometimes think you've done the work around a memory and there's just still some lingering energy around it,
100%. Well, I like to call it the spiral staircase. Right? Oh, yeah. So it's like you start here and you think, I cleared it. And it's like the same thing as the onion, but I like this spiral staircase. I don't know. It's like,
I literally just read it this morning where somebody said, like when something comes back up for you, it's like a spiral staircase because you're getting to go deeper and deeper into it and see something you didn't see before. And I was like, okay, I've never heard that before. And now you just brought it up. So
but I like to see it not going deeper. I like to see it going up. So like you're out of they're out of the basement. You're like getting into more natural light and you're getting into more lightness and airiness and freedom. So it's always about the context that we're living in, like what we're telling ourselves about it, right? Because if we're like, this sucks, this hurts. So like, I've been doing my best and even teaching my kids not to use the P word, pain. It's not pain, it's sensations. What is the sensation? And we can move the sensations in our body, because once we call it pain, we're living into this story that it hurts or it's wrong and we have to remove it, we have to clear it. And then we know that persists things. So it's like, like I like to imagine you can open up the top of your head, right? Like I learned this from one of my coaches and mentors, and let the energy, I'm like, for people who are watching the video, you can see it, but
Yeah.
I'm like imagining like the energy flowing up your head, or like removing the like little doors from your feet and letting like the extra energy just like flow off back into the earth. And that's really what opened up
Yeah.
my gifts, were these, I did this middle pillar visualization every day, like going, like breathing through and creating this white light. And it was just crazy. The openings that it gave
Mm-hmm.
me, and the connections, and what all these
Yeah.
different things I could connect with. And then just this ability to read energy and maintain it for me and for my clients, and just how to make it fun and playful so it's not more work, right? I want it to be like something that we want to do, that we're drawn to. We already have enough work and responsibility. Like, let's make it playful.
Yeah.
Let's make it light. Let's bring in the awe in these moments of savoring and joy. Like, we're sitting here talking over this like amazing technology. Like, let's take a minute and be grateful for it, right? Like, all these people are listening, like, hello, and thank you for listening and supporting Kara and her amazing podcast. And, it's just, I don't know. This is just like,
And
once
the
you
magic
start
of
that,
Laura.
once you start like tuning into that, right? Like, our brains have a negativity bias. So we have all these thoughts, and we have like 90% negative, and then I think it's 85%. I got to check the notes. It's in one of the games in my book, this heartfulness game. But it's like, we need to build the skills, right? Like, I'm an athlete. We need to train our muscles to like look for this awe. We need to come from this embodied play mindset,
Yeah.
rather than our default of like robot, adult, work harder, scarcity, abundance, like, murder. There's so many different automatics. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think like we oftentimes, when I've gone on this spiritual journey for many years now, and I think people have this thought that like it has to be so serious. Right? Like, if I'm going to open my intuition up, I'm going to open myself up spiritually, I'm going to see what kind of wisdom comes. It's like, well, I must sit like a monk at a tree and meditate for 2 hours. And I don't have time to do that. And that sounds boring. And I don't want to do that. And so I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, it just doesn't have to be like that. Like this morning, knowing I did some preparation for this podcast interview, and then I knew that you were going to be on the pod. And I was like, you know what? I want to just do something. I go and walk in the woods a lot, and I love being in nature, and I love being in the woods, and it makes me happy. And I found this like log that had fallen over, and I was like, oh my God, I am just going to play in the woods instead of just like coming out in the woods. I'm just going to go play in the woods. And I walked on this like big log, like it was a balance beam. And I just kind of like danced on it and walked on it. And I had this huge aha that came to me while I did that. And I was like, I was just goofing around and playing in the woods. And it became this like deeply spiritual thing. Like, we often think it has to be so serious. And I just don't think it does,
No, the more we can bring this lightness, this like ease to our life, the more we can show up to the harder things with this ease, right? Like, as a tennis coach, I would say I wouldn't have my students go out into like the big match and like practice or like use their brand new spin serve. They have to practice it in regular life, or practice it on the practice court so they can show up. So it's like, how can we practice these muscles? How can we fine tune them so that we can show up to the difficult moments? And we have to have this energy, like we had to charge our battery, like you were saying, so that we have something left over. I love that you're playing and dancing on it. It's funny.
So I think
I was just going to say, well, like, one of the things that I saw for myself when you do this work is you get these old memories that you might have forgotten about, but they're all stored in your body. So it's so fascinating. So once I was doing this work on myself.
Totally. Oh, I had one of those.
Yeah.
Totally.
I got this memory of me. I think I was in 3rd grade. I was on the playground, and we were at this assembly, and we were singing "One Moment in Time" by Whitney Houston. Do you guys remember that song? It was like during the Olympics.
Yes.
And I was standing on the playground, and I was just belting it out. I would almost sing it right now, but I feel like I would like pop out my microphone. You guys be like, oh, but I remember singing it, and then the kids looked at me like, "Take it easy, Laura," like, and I remember like when I did that clearing, it's like, what do you say to yourself? It's not okay. Like, I guess I'm too much. And so I start putting myself down, and dimming my light and not showing up as me. And so I got to clear that block. And then here I am, I could just belt out my Whitney Houston. One moment. Give me one moment in time. Right? Like, we could sing it. I was like, I better sing it at least a little bit. Otherwise, I'm just staying back in that moment.
A little.
But anyways,
I'm pretty sure we have the rights to at least one line, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could just, I can be lip syncing it.
Totally.
Yeah, but it's so fun because
That's
we don't know what these blocks are. We don't know and we think we do.
Yeah.
But sometimes we don't. And so that's where it's so amazing to tune into your own energy and to be able to mess around with it.
Yeah, and to get curious about it. If something pops up, like it popped up for a reason. So just pay attention to it. Like if you were doing something and it triggered a memory for you that maybe, like you said, Laura, where you felt like somebody told you were too much and, put yourself back in a box and all of that. It's like, if that happens, like get curious with it. Like, I wonder why that showed up for me. I wonder if there's some healing I should do there. I wonder if I need to give that little girl a little more love, a little more kindness, maybe a little forgiveness for the things that happened to her. Maybe I just need to like support that version of me just a little bit more and allow me to be my full self now. Because they do have some of those wounds that carry forward for us. And it's good. It's good to heal those things. So I always think if it shows up, just get a little curious with it and figure out why.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of that. The like soul retrieval parts of us that don't feel safe. And so we bring us back to whole.
Indeed. Okay, so I want to play this. I do like a little bit of a rapid fire, like favorite thing. So I want to play this game with you. I'm going to call it a game. I want to play this game with you. And you just tell me what comes up for you when I say this topic, okay? So it's like, what are your favorite things or a positive, joyful thing that pops into your mind when I give you this topic, okay? Okay, what is your favorite food?
I'm laughing because I had this conversation with my family. And I said vegetables, and they said, no, it's not vegetables. And I would miss vegetables the most if they weren't there. But my favorite food is probably
It's okay. Somebody said avocado once, and I allowed them to have avocado. So you can have vegetables if you want.
I will say, like, ice cream is delicious. I've always loved like, a good ice cream sundae.
What flavor?
I like vanilla.
Me too. I knew.
So good.
Same.
So
Love
good.
It. Okay, what's your favorite place to travel, or if you could travel next, where would you go?
So the next place that I want to go is I want to go visit my dear friend Brian in France and go out to like old European cities and just like sit in the plaza and like drink coffees and just like go into bookstores and just explore.
So maybe you just need to get a keynote there, and then you can.
Yes, that's what I tell them. So come on, Brian, I'm ready. I'm ready. Anybody in France?
Book it.
French people want more play.
That's right. All the French people everywhere book Laura.
Or you could, if you're in Spain, it's right there on the border. I'm going to Perpignan, Barcelona.
Love it. Love it. What's your favorite holiday?
Okay, growing up, 4th of July, like you, 100%. Taking the train to the city, watching the fireworks with like the symphony orchestra. It's amazing. But I have to say I do love Christmas too, because it's just based on this beautiful family connectedness season, right? It's just this reason to get people together. And from like the happiness research, social connection is the number one way to boost your overall well-being. So because the season has all of these gatherings as part of it, I think it's just this beautiful connection season. And it was fun too, because when I lived in Australia, it was like I got to have like surfing Santa, and like we went to the beach, and so it's just fun. I got to do both seasons.
Love it. There's something really cool about Christmas too, in the sense that it forces you to practice this giving but also receiving. And sometimes we're really good at giving and not so good at receiving. And you have to have this dual relationship at Christmas. Like you're giving people gifts and you're so joyful to do so, even if it's a handmade gift and you really don't have any money, but you make something for someone and it makes them happy. But you also have to be willing to receive it. And so when people say things like, don't get me anything, it's like, that's a little bit of a nudge or a lesson to be open to receiving the gifts that the world wants to give you and the universe is trying to give you. So I think that's another reason to love Christmas.
Such a good point. And it reminds me of like these like energetic blocks around receiving for all of us givers, right? Like I've done a lot of work for myself and with my clients, and opening up our abilities to receive these blocks of things that we weren't safe in the past when we were too successful, or people had wealth in the past. So those are interesting blocks. But I do want to share one money tip that's not mine. It's from Ken
By
Honda.
the way, I'm into it. I've been doing all sorts of wealth manifesting.
This is one of my favorites. I've been practicing it since I learned it from him years ago. And it's the practice of blessing your money. So his book is called Happy Money. And so he says, when you spend your money, I bless it. So he's from Japan, so it's arigato. So I say arigato when I spend my money. Every time I say, may this money bless the people that it comes into. And then when I receive money, I say arigato, may this money bless me and my family and my ability to gift it to other people. So it's this like, instead of being upset when you spend money, you have this like open-ended. So I think that's something I bring to everything. It's like, how can I be of service, and how can I have this be this like communal, like the greater good, this blessing energy and spirit.
I love that. Like, this just, not to go on a side tangent, but this just showed up for me recently because I had a bill that was an annual renewal that I didn't know was an annual renewal, and there was no way to reverse it. So I just paid a whole nother year for something I didn't want or need. And I was so mad. I was like, oh, and they wouldn't refund me and whatever. And I was like, oh, Kara, whoa, there's a little lesson here. Like, what are you meant to be learning in this moment? And I really realized, like, okay, you're allowing a frustration over like hoarding money or not wanting to spend money, and instead just say, okay, well, I'm going to release it. It will come back to me another way. And I had to like spend a little time. Probably was about 20 minutes of being kind of frustrated, and then recognizing that, and to me the awe method, right? And then being like, why am I allowing myself to be angry about this? Like, release it, let it go, that you cannot change it. So just bless it, send it off, wish the company well, let it go, and move on. You know?
Yeah.
So
it's the story that we're telling
we're meant to talk about money a little bit.
Yeah, because it's a big deal. It's like the energy,
exactly right.
The energetics of money. It's not like a whole thing. It's like, what did you believe about it? What didn't you believe? And how can you be open to it? And how can you have a fair exchange of it? And just like see it as like a circulation of blessings.
That's right. The energetic exchange, because it's really, I feel like money's neutral. You can think it's amazing or terrible, but it's neutral. Like it's just a thing, just like any other thing. And it's just, we're giving it a little bit too much power.
Yeah. Money's a tool, and how do we use it?
Yeah.
That's right. Obviously it's great to have it.
That's exactly right.
It's great to have it if it affords you things.
Thank you.
Yeah. Arigato.
Exactly. So I always say, yeah, arigato, thank you. I received that. Thank you, universe. I received that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favorite animal or your favorite spirit animal?
Okay. Oh, I forgot about this one. Okay. I have like a parade. I have a parade. Like I have like a whole parade around me. It just depends on the day. So it's like dragonflies.
Have you been seeing anything lately?
Well, I think I told you about the hawk. I had this like hawks thing, and what other ones have I been getting? I mean, I get them in hilarious ways.
Horses.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Horses. So like not only real animals, but like I get them as like so I got the horse as a car was driving down the freeway, like a semi truck with a statue of a horse, right? Like after I had seen like horses on pajamas and like it's funny. Like my spirit guides show up in hilarious ways, and they make me laugh, and I love it.
Same.
So once you invite them in and you get the message, it's super fun.
Yeah, it's so true. Like I've been hanging out in the woods, and of course there's squirrels everywhere. So it's not, of course I'm going to see squirrels. Yeah. But I was sitting and meditating there's this little creek, and I sat down and laid against a tree and meditate. I could feel my grandpa's presence hanging out with me. And this squirrel came. It was like a tree 10 feet from me. And it just went out on a branch, and it stared right at me in the eyes for like 10 minutes. Whoa, like squirrels are squirrely. They don't stay around, and it just stared at me, and I was like, okay, Grandpa, I can feel him right now. Oh my God, I love it. And I was like, okay, I will go and look up what it means. And it really did have a message for me that day, like something I really needed to receive that was magical. It's like the first thing that popped up about what a squirrel means. And I was like, okay, I got it.
It's such a great one. It's such a great one. Those Japanese beetles, they're really big and they're like green and like that one had been coming up and they were like, it was like hitting the kitchen window. I was like, okay, so like some things you see all the time. So then you go, if this is a sign, do something a little bit different, and then you can tell. So it's like so fun.
Right. That's exactly right. I love signs and synchronicity. So it's funny. I I did a group reading. I do this in 2024. I've been doing a free reading on the last Tuesday of the month. And this lady came in and she was like, okay, so I asked for a very specific sign. I want this color Volkswagen Beetle if it's this color if it's this, and this color if it's this. She goes, and I saw Volkswagen Beetles everywhere, which I normally don't see. And I saw them everywhere, but not in any of the 3 colors of the things that I need. And so I just intuitively told her, like, hey, your guides are just telling you, like, not yet. It's a yellow light. Just wait. So she messaged me the very next day. She saw a yellow Volkswagen Beetle. She goes, oh, my guides are effing with me now. They think they're so funny. They're like, yellow, funny. Yellow, wait. Yeah, like yellow Volkswagen Beetle.
Funny.
So I love it. It's funny that she normally doesn't see them. And then she saw them in every color but the color she asked for. And then the next day when I tell her, like, they're giving you a yellow light, just wait, was what her intuitive reading was. And then she sees a yellow Volkswagen Beetle. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you ask for signs and you're like this or this, but like these might not be the answer. So like if you don't see
exactly.
it, your answer
like, I'm not gonna
is
get either one.
You learning to ask better questions or give yourself a little more
exactly
space for it.
Ask a better question. That's exactly right. Okay, what is your favorite thing about, you do lots of different things, but what's your favorite thing about what you do for a living?
My favorite thing is just people. I love people. I love connecting with people. I love hearing their stories. I love any little role I can play in clearing any of their energetic blocks or having them connect with their family and feel fulfilled. Like, it's just the best. Like, I hear, like, okay, so one of my talk on Tuesday, this one lady was sharing, because we do this exercise where we go back to what you love to do as a kid. She said they would have to clear the dinner table. Her parents would go in the other room, and her and her sister would make up raps. They would make up raps while they were clearing the dinner. And now she, like, loves this memory. And so now she's going to, like, make up raps when she's, like, cleaning dishes and stuff. And I'm like, these little moments, these funny memories. Like, I love it. I love people. I love getting to talk on stage and meet all these people and help people one-on-one, create openness in their body and their life. And it's just so fun. And meeting people like you.
That doesn't surprise me. I know, just being in your energy is always magic, Laura. So that doesn't surprise me. You're just so extraordinary. So I love that.
You. Oh my
okay,
goodness.
what advice would you give to somebody wanting to find more joy or tune into their energy or listen to their intuitive guidance? Like, what would be your little piece of advice that you would give someone?
Just start small. Do something really small for yourself and just start to notice and just do something small for yourself each day, right? I have a game. It's called a play, pause, break. You just do something really small that you like to do. Like maybe as a kid, you loved writing poetry. So you just write in your journal at night, or you go find a log in the woods instead of just hiking on the trail next to it, right? You just dance on the log like you did this morning, just these small things, this everyday nice. Like how can you transform the everyday moments? Not the super fun, huge ones. Those are great too. But like, let's look into these little things, like small things. Like how can you just turn up the dial a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter. More fully yourself.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice. It's like, sometimes it is just the littlest thing. Like, you know what? I'm going to play my favorite song from high school and I'm going to jam out like a mofo on my way to work today. Like that doesn't cost you any money and it will totally shift your energy. And you're like, okay, new kids on the block. Let's do this thing. Whatever it might be. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Laura. Yeah. How can people connect with you, follow you if they're like, hey, I'd love to book you for a keynote or a workshop, or I want to buy one of your books? Like, how can somebody find their way to you?
Yeah, you guys, I'd love to connect. And I have a free playlist planner for anyone who's like, I don't know what's fun for me anymore. Or if you're like, I know what's fun, I just don't have the time. Like, that's one of my gifts I have. So you guys can find that on my website, laurahaver.com. Connect with me on Instagram, Laura M. Haver. And also I run a community called Author Moms, which is a free community to support fellow writing moms. So anyone's welcome to come. We meet once a month virtually, and we have other different events. So I'd love to connect and help you guys along your way, bring more joy and fulfillment. And even if you just have a story to share, I'd love to hear how you're bringing the joy and awe to your everyday life.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Laura. You have the most beautiful newsletter too. So I highly recommend people hop on your website and sign up. I just love the way that you share joy in it and the way that you write, and you are such a gifted writer and speaker. And I am so grateful to have you in my life and to have you on the podcast. So thank you so much, Laura.
Oh, such a pleasure. And so nice to meet you guys. I hope you guys are out there building your own energetic circuitry, getting stronger and faster back on, just turning up your light, just turning it up and turning it up and turning it up, and then allowing other people to do the same thing around you and just finding your peeps. It's the best.
I love it. We're just going to end with a little Rihanna, shine bright like a diamond, friends. Like, go for it. Shine your light bright.
Like a diamond.
That's right. I'm going to get all the copywriting after this one. I was like, yes, it's fine. We're fine. We're supporting you, artists. We love you, Whitney. We love you, Rihanna. Nothing but love for you. So thank you, Laura, for coming. And I hope you all had a little bit of fun on this episode. And you also will have a little fun in your life and do just a small little thing to bring you joy. So until next time, everybody, thanks for tuning in.